So, you want to talk about the past in French? Well, there's one tense you absolutely have to get the hang of. It's called the Passé Composé, and honestly, it's the key to telling stories and sharing your experiences. Let's break it down together. You know that feeling? You're trying to tell a friend about something that happened yesterday, maybe even just 5 minutes ago, and you just freeze? You want to say, I did this, or we went there, but you're not quite sure how to say it in French. Well, guess what? The Passé Composé is exactly what you've been looking for. So what is this thing, really? Think of it this way. The Passé Composé is for actions that are done and dusted. They happened, and now they're over. It's the French way of saying I watched, he ate, or they left. It's specific, it's completed, and it's essential. Now, I know what you might be thinking. The word compound sounds kind of complicated, right? But don't worry. The best way to think about the Passé Composé is like a super simple recipe. Seriously, it only has two main ingredients. Once you know what they are and how to mix them together, you'll be cooking up past tense sentences in no time. All right, let's get into our first ingredient, the helper verbs. You'll also hear them called auxiliaries. And just like the name says, they help you build the past tense. The best part? There are only two of them, and you probably already know them really well. The first, and by far the most common helper verb, is avoir, which means to have. We just use it in its normal present tense form, j'ai, tu as, il a. You know the drill. This guy is your go-to helper for the huge majority of verbs in French. And our second helper verb is être, which means to be. And again, you just need its regular present tense forms. Je suis, tu es, il est, and so on. Now, this one is used way less often, but it's for a very specific, very important group of verbs. We'll get to that in just a bit. Okay, we've got our helper verbs. That's one ingredient down, one to go. Now for our second key ingredient, the past participle. This is the part of the verb that really holds the meaning of what happened. Whoa, okay, this chart looks like a lot, but don't panic. Just focus with me on one little part right here in the Passé Composé column. See that? That's our recipe in action. You've got ingredient 1, the helper verb from avoir, a, and you've got ingredient 2, the past participle aimer. Put them together, and boom, j'ai aimé, I liked. It's the perfect example of how these two simple parts create the past tense. So how do you actually make this past participle thing? Well, for the biggest group of French verbs, the ones that end in er, it is so easy. You just follow these 3 steps. Take a verb like jouer, to play. You drop the er and you just add et. That's literally it. Jouer becomes jouer. Manger becomes manger. It's a super predictable pattern. And you know what? Other regular verb groups follow simple patterns too. For verbs ending in ir, the ending usually just becomes I, so finir becomes fini. Verbs ending in r or oi also have their own predictable changes. The key right now isn't to memorize every single one, but just to see that there are consistent rules you can totally learn over time. But of course, it's French, right? So you know there have to be some exceptions. But don't worry, these 4 on the slide are the big ones you are going to see everywhere, all the time. The past participle of avoir is eu. For être, it's été. Faire, which is to do or to make, becomes fait. And aller, to go, becomes aller. I definitely recommend making flashcards for these guys. Okay, we have our 2 ingredients, a helper verb and a past participle. Now for the assembly instructions. This is the big one. How in the world do you know if you should use avoir or être as your helper? Here is the single most important rule to remember. Avoir is the default. It's the standard. When you're not sure, your first guess should always be avoir. Être is the special case. It's reserved for a very specific, kind of exclusive list of verbs. So just think of it this way. Avoir is the rule, and être is the exception. So what are these special case verbs that get to use être? Well, they pretty much fall into 3 main buckets. First, we have pronominal verbs. Those are the actions you do to yourself, the ones with say in front, like se lever, to get yourself up. Second, verbs that show a change of state, like being born or dying. And third, and this is a big one, a key group of verbs that show movement, like going, arriving, and leaving. Let's look at a real-world example to see how this all clicks together. This says, yesterday morning, I got up at 6 o'clock. I took a shower. On the way, I went to the cafe. I ordered a large black coffee. Now, even in just that little story, you can see both helper verbs at work. Let's dig in. Okay, let's pull that apart. Je me suis levé. Getting up is a pronominal verb, right?
so it needs être. But the very next thing is j'ai pris. I took a shower. That's just a regular action, so it uses the default helper, avoir. And you see the pattern again with je suis allé, I went, that's movement, so it's être. Then j'ai commandé, I ordered, that's a regular action, so it's back to avoir. The pattern is so clear once you see it.
So you've built your sentence, you've described something that happened in the past. That's awesome. The final touch, the little garnish on top of our recipe, is placing that action on a timeline. How do we signal exactly when it happened? Well, for that, we use time markers. A time marker sounds all technical, but it's really simple. It's just a word or a phrase that pins your action to a specific time. Words we use all the time, like yesterday, last week, or right now. These words are like little signposts that tell you and the person you're talking to exactly which tense to use. They're super helpful. And this timeline here shows you exactly what I mean. When you use a past time marker like here, which means yesterday, you are clearly pointing to an event that is finished. It's on the timeline, but it's separate from the present and the future. These words are basically your trigger to use the Passé Composé. And here are some of the most common time markers you're going to hear and use constantly. For the past, words like hier, yesterday, and la semaine dernière, last week, are dead giveaways that you need the Passé Composé. For right now, you'll hear aujourd'hui, today, and for the future, you'll use words like demain, tomorrow.
Okay, so let's do a super quick recap of the essentials. What is the Passé Composé for? Finished actions in the past. How do you make it? Easy. It's the helper verb, avoir or être, plus your past participle. And the big rule? Most verbs use avoir. The exception? Movement and pronominal verbs get to use être.
And that's it. You have the complete recipe for talking about the past in French. The parts are simple, the rules are pretty clear. So the only real question left is, what are you going to say with it? What did you do yesterday?